Hello, my name is Janice Snyder, partner at McConnell Ian Astbury. I lead our audit segment, and I spend a significant amount of our time working with healthcare entities, both for-profit and nonprofit. With me today is Mike Eby, director of our state and local tax practice, and he's going to answer a few questions for us today about why a healthcare organization will be interested in having a sales and use tax review.
Thanks, Janice. I'm glad to be here.
So, Mike, why would a healthcare practice want to consider having a sales and use tax review performed?
Well, Janice, it really comes down to the short answer. The main reason is that there could be money being left on the table by these treatment centers. And I want to say it's usually the for-profit treatment centers, because nonprofits typically aren't paying tax. So that's really not a lot of potential there. The other reason, though, is because there could be some exposure where they're underpaying sales and use tax. And if a state auditor were to come in, that could be a major exposure item for them. The good news, Pennsylvania and Maryland are very broad in terms of their exclusions and exemptions for medical practices. So there's usually more refund potential in my experience that I've seen than exposure.
You used the word treatment center when you talked about that. Are you talking about drug and alcohol rehabilitation facilities, surgery centers, or is it something more broad than that affects more healthcare organizations?
Really any type of medical treatment center, so that could be surgical, outpatient, anything that's for-profit could be, like, as you said, psychological as well.
Dental as well?
Dental, yes, that's a good example.
Great. Is there any reason not to have a sales and use tax review?
You don't really know. I'll describe kind of how the process works. The main reason is the initial review is free, so I always say it doesn't hurt to take a look.
Mm-hmm. Does it take a lot of time on the client side? Because as a client, I might say, I'm really busy, and I don't know if I have time for that. So what's that initial review? How much time might that take me?
That's a really good question. We try our best on the initial review to not really involve the client's staff whatsoever, other than initially getting us to come in and setting us up to do the review of the purchase invoices. Try to review a year's worth. Might take us a day or a day and a half. Again, once we're set up, we work on our own on that. So our goal, that's a good sampling, is to try to get a year's worth. From there, we share our sampling with the client and tell them what we've seen, good or bad, refund potential or exposure, and then recommend how to proceed with that.
So it sounds like it takes a minimal amount of my time to at least kind of assess the situation. I have potential for a refund. However, if there's something we missed or didn't pay taxes on that we should have, I can catch that up front and avoid some potentially hefty penalties in the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are definitely times when we go out and do the initial review and there's just not enough refund potential there for us to go and actually do a full refund petition. But I think clients still see the value of having us come out there and at least identifying a couple best tips and practices for reporting their sales and use tax.
Okay, so can you give me some examples of purchases that are non-taxable for healthcare facilities?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends based on the state, but I would say Pennsylvania and Maryland specifically had the broadest exclusions, some of the broadest exclusions and exemptions for medical practices in the entire country. So generally speaking, anything that's medicine or one-time use medical supplies or even medical equipment that's used on or by the patient to alleviate a physical incapacity or illness would be exempt. And then on top of that, just general administrative expenses that any type of business would have. For Pennsylvania, if you have direct mail advertising or snow removal or even real property repair services, those would be exempt as well.
Oh, great. So it sounds like this is one time Pennsylvania is a good place to be doing business.
Yes, very, very good for in terms of their sales tax exclusions for now.
Great. So what are some of the successful stories? I mean, what's your largest refund that you've calculated, or how much have you really helped healthcare organizations?
There's obviously been a number over the years. I've been doing this for about 10 years with McConnell Ian Astbury in industries such as manufacturing, trucking, retail, in addition to the for-profit healthcare. But since we're talking specifically about healthcare, one good example kind of recently that we've just completed, this was an interventional radiology treatment center company. They had about 30 locations across the United States, and I think 7 or 8 that operate in Maryland, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And in the course of several years and about 2 rounds of refund appeals, we were able to obtain $559,000 for that client, just for 7 centers in those 3 states. So needless to say, they were pretty happy about those results, and we were able to actively work with them in reaching out to their vendors, and now they're not even paying that sales tax erroneously going forward.
Great. That's a wonderful success story, and certainly a lot of cash that could be left on the table by many, many organizations. So you've convinced me that a healthcare organization should at least have this looked at, because it's not a lot of effort and a lot of upside and not much downside. So why should they choose McConnell Ian Astbury? In particular, why should we choose you, Mike? Obviously, I'm biased. I know you'll do a great job, but how about you tell us why we should choose McConnell Ian Astbury?
Well, Janice, our primary objective is to get a refund for the client for past taxes paid. However, we also concentrate on improving process for them going forward, and the fact that they change their system so that they're not erroneously paying sales and use tax that they shouldn't be paying. And that's through assisting them with reaching out with the right correspondence to their vendors or helping them with exemption certificates. I believe that sets us apart from our competition in that way, because it cuts us out of the process when we don't get those representation fees on an ongoing basis for going through the appeals. But it's the right thing to do, and we believe as an accounting firm, they actually might choose us then for other accounting needs or consulting needs that they may have.
Great. Thanks so much, Mike. As we mentioned, Mike is director of our state and local tax practice. And should you have any questions or any follow-up or really want to evaluate whether or not a sales and use tax review would be beneficial to your organization, please do not hesitate to contact Mike Eby. Thank you.